world's chief executive fish nerd of the Fish Nerds podcast, a show about fish, fishing, and eating fish.
And I'm Scott Albrecht, today's fill-in co-host and regular host of Fish Addictions Radio and Ice Fishing Podcast.
The nerdiest show on ice, I hear.
I'm a nerd, man. I am a nerd, but I love Fish Nerds, man. I'll tell you what, it is the coolest thing to be on Fish Nerds, and I'm totally going to share this with my audience so that they can subscribe and get both audience love on that one.
Well, there's a shortage of fishing podcasts on the internet, so there's room for everybody. And one of the things that Fish Nerds is all about is building community. And I always love seeing new podcasters coming in, or you're not even that new, but like other podcasters coming into the space. And I want to encourage people to do more podcasting and share more stories. So I'm happy to have you. And Scott, I want you to tell me about Fish Addictions Radio. Why do you make a podcast, and where'd it come from?
Yeah, so like in the podcasting circles, right, they talk about profit, but not like, money profit.
I was going to
say. IT, right?
Yeah.
And the F in profit is for fun. And that's literally the only reason why I do the podcast is because it's fun. And really there's a lot of information to share. And as long as there's information to share and I'm having fun, we'll be doing Fish Addictions Radio. And the thing about it is it's not seasonal. We talk about ice fishing year round. So if you're someone who just craves that content in the May month, the June month, the July, if you want ice fishing content year round, that's all we're going to talk about, and Fish Addictions TV and I got together because a lot of their episodes were ice fishing related. And I said, you guys are just wacky. I mean, you're just out of your mind, like cray, right? I can't compete with that. I'm going to help you guys. Like, you guys keep on doing what you're doing on TV. I'm going to get into that radio space, right? And break my nerd brain into the radio space and try to blow some minds on some ice fishing stuff. And we're going to do this without you having to work for it. It's going to be kind of going on in its own little thing. And so they've really been helping me by contributing to the podcast. So like, I just get like live links to what they're doing while they're doing it, like call-ins from Canada while they're fishing and filming an episode. Cool. So kind of a TV podcast / ice fishing aficionado podcast / interview podcast. Like if you could have a podcast for everything in the topic of ice fishing, that's what Fish Addictions Radio is. Yeah. Now, so I don't know. I don't know if you know me well enough, but ice fishing is my nerd. That's where I love the best. That's my favorite kind of fishing. I'm an ice fishing guide. I'm a licensed fishing guide. I can guide all year, but I only guide on the ice because I think it's the most unique way of fishing, and it's the way you can bring experience that people can't get anywhere else. And I think it's all the gear and the building the camps and the putting the tents up. Today, my friend Vinny and I just picked up an old pop-up trailer, and we're going to turn that into an ice shanty to guide out of. So it's going to be amazing. We can't wait. And we're going to put it in the worst lake in New Hampshire, Silver Lake. And we're going to put people on fish that you can't catch in Silver Lake. And we'll catch those fish, lake trout, which is our game there. That's hate fishing, right? When you're fishing for the fish you don't want to fish for, because I always call like the muskie. Like you catch an accidental muskie, it's great, but like have to actually cast 1,000 times. Like I don't want to do that. Man. It's totally hate fishing. It's funny. It's funny you said that because my first guided trip last year, one of our listeners booked the trip, and I said when I first started advertising the ice fishing excursions was two things I'm not going to do is I'm not going to take clients fishing for lake trout, and I'm not going to fish on Silver Lake. So the first client who hired us, name is Mike Crooker, hired me, and he says, I want you to take me fishing on Silver Lake for lake trout. And I said, you're not going to catch any fish. He says, I know, but I want you to go hate fishing with me. And we ended up catching 12 big lakers that day, and my personal best yellow perch, and had a great day on the ice, and it was fantastic. And since then, I've not been afraid to catch fish where there's no fish. I can do it. So I'm intrigued, man. So you got a camper, right? Yeah. I'm actually recording this podcast inside of a shanty, but this is next level. Yeah. Yeah, this is a pop-up shanty in my basement, but a camper. So like you're going to have to figure out a way to get camper to the ice, right? Mm-hmm, and then you probably get like a hole in the floor so you can fish through it, right? Like what's your plan, man? You got an axe to this thing? You got to take a chainsaw? What's going on there? All right, so we're gonna
you have to stay tuned because we're still designing it. But the plan is to tear it all apart, build walls all around it, drill cut about 4 big holes inside of it, and then use like 5-gallon buckets between the floor and the ice, and then drill the holes in there. And we use electric augers, the DeWalt drill with the Nils auger bit on them, so we're not dealing with gas and all that junk. And by the way, I can't figure out why anyone uses a gas auger anymore. It's so much work compared to how it can be,
I told you what, man. I was up in Michigan with Anthony Rodriguez and Myron Gilbert, and I'm name dropping now. But
never heard of them.
They were using like one hand to like lean on a drill. And just, I'm actually standing up and I'm showing you right now. This is great for audio. Right?
That's perfect. Yeah.
Podcast. And then they had like their bucket with their the Sportsman's Direct. What's the ice hopper thingamabob? And so it's got the flasher there.
Yes,
it's got the deucer just hanging. So literally they're walking, drilling, and then they drop the deucer down. And they'd walk 5 steps and then drop the deucer down. And I'm like, that is portable fishing, man. That is NIFC teaching these guys how to like, I can drill 100 holes and you just map the whole lake out in like an hour. You know what I mean?
And you don't need, if there's no fish there, you move on. Don't waste your time in a hole with no fish. And you can, in early ice, you could pour a little water on the ice and drop your transducer on the ice there, and it will shoot through the ice. And you don't have to drill a hole at all. You can just know if it's worth drilling.
You're fish nerding it up, man, with deucers.
And deucers.
How does that blows my mind. Right?
I don't know how it works, but we do it.
See through it. That's cray.
It's like ice is liquid or something. It's crazy. But I want to talk about you because you're this podcast really cool. But actually, you're part of the Ice Fishing USA team. Is that right?
Yes, I've been overseas, and it's funny. You joined Team USA because you're an American.
Go America!
Yeah, man. Like you, all American pride. Like you show up to tryouts, and you're just like America, And you have like these envisioned like things of Team Russia out to get you, and
I am going to drill some holes for you.
Yeah. Like I'm training in the morning, and like I'll have like a coyote run across my path. That's what I'm saying, man. It's like, and then you get there though, and you meet these people, and you go back the next year because of the people. You join Team USA because of America. You go back again because of all the other countries that you met. Like you befriend these guys overseas that don't have any really other commonality with you. All you have is ice fishing, and they barely speak English. Like they're watching TV the other day, and I was like, "What are you watching?" "Oh, Live." And I'm like, "What? What's Live?" And they pointed to the computer screen. It was live. And I was like, oh, live. Yeah, and I guess in Sweden they call that Live, right? We're walking into a Ukrainian coffee shop, and they didn't speak any English. And I said, what's your Wi-Fi password? And they're like, Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi, yeah. I pointed to the door, like, oh, Wi-Fi. And I'm like, oh, I guess in Ukraine it's called Wi-Fi. So you just, the overseas travel in a nutshell, awesome. When you're doing it for ice fishing, it's even cooler because everyone has that one thing in common. However, I will tell you that the number one question I got when I was overseas ice fishing in Latvia 4 months ago was, oh, you're from America. What do you think about Trump?
How does one answer that without getting in trouble?
I just flew across the Atlantic Ocean to come ice fish in your country, and you want to talk about politics? I'm like, there's probably some other things we might be able to share in common than really Trump. Funny. I don't even know anything about this guy named Trump other than you guys are all interested. Like every single person in Latvia asked me about President Trump. I'm like, all right.
Well, but how you fall on Trump, he is an anomaly and worth talking about. So the cool thing, though, I always say when people ask me, why do you make a fishing podcast? I say fishing is the one thing that everyone on earth has in common. It doesn't matter where you travel. Every culture on the planet is built around water and built around fish. And so you have something in common with all the cultures. Unless you're in a desert, I guess. But even then, I think that they would prefer to be around fish. So we have right there, you've got that one thing. I used to fish at night in a lake in southern New Hampshire. And across the lake from me, across the little brook from me where the other guy was fishing, was a Chinese guy, didn't speak English at all. And we would catch fish all night together. We didn't speak the same language. And then within a month or so, I was having dinner at his house with his family. And I have no idea what him or his family were saying at all, except for we were eating fish together, and it was great. So it's awesome. Common. It brings us together. It's cool.
It is really cool.
Now, when you're fishing on Team USA, you guys are using those little palm rods. Is that am I missing something? Is that right?
Dude, like I am like addicted to palm rod fishing.
I've never done it. So
it started for me 5 years ago. And
before you explain it, describe a palm rod for listeners who don't know what that means.
Yeah, so it's really small, like really small. Like I could literally have one in my back pocket and sit down and it wouldn't hurt, because the entire the whole reel is contained inside of like an encasing, and the encasing is not bigger than the palm of your hand. And the rod length, I think average rod length for a palm rod is like 10 inches. A lot of Team USA guys sand theirs down so that it's more of like a 6-inch blank, and that's just for control. Honestly, the longer your rod is, the less control you have over those micro movements. And then we're all fishing with these indicators. We don't call them spring bobbers because they're not made out of metal. And even indicator is not a solid justification, because there's nothing in America that is like it. It's like Xerox paper that we're putting on the end of these rods. And I was actually talking to Dave Young today about the tight lining and stuff like that.
Yeah,
we're essentially tight lining. It's a better visual cue for someone who's not really good at looking at 0.6 diameter line, which is, by the way, what we use overseas.
So 0.6 diameter is like,
to see what the fish are doing. So it's yeah, exactly. No, yeah, exactly. And so, they go overseas, and, I was a pro staff for Vicious for 6 years, and their 1 pound test is like double the diameter, honestly. And it's still smaller diameter than a lot of the American line brands. But I get my international stuff from Germany, and I actually sent that over to Dave today, because it's tipping line. You would know. It's so Stroft. Have you ever heard of Stroft before?
No.
Okay, so it's tipping line. Fly fishing tipping line, right? I don't know anything about fly fishing.
Let me stop you for a second.
Yeah.
It's well known that I suck at fly fishing and don't know anything about it. I just this summer decided to try it a lot, but I don't speak the language of fly fishing yet. And when I do, I'll be next level snob. I'll be able to really have this conversation in a way that makes sense.
I'm sorry for assuming that in the Northeast you guys fly fish. I did hear on your last podcast though that you were talking about fly fishing all summertime. So So I go to this website. Mike McNett, who's captain of Team USA, is like, you got to get this stuff. And Stroft stands for strong and soft. Oh, that's what you want, right? You want ample line, mono, right? And then you want something that's strong if you're only fishing 0.6 millimeter, right? And so now I'm hooked. And so I'm fishing this for the last 3 years. And then the last couple of times I went over to international ice fishing, the hole through the head jigs, dude, I can tell you, in Ukraine 2 years ago, I was up till like 2 a.m. every night, because I couldn't like master getting the knot. But like in Latvia, I had all my stuff tied in an hour. I was sleeping like a baby because I got that knot down, and I got back overseas. I'm good friends with John Baccarell. I'm just dropping names.
I don't know anybody.
So I fished with him in high school. He owns Sportsman's Direct in Michigan.
Okay.
And I didn't even know. I never made the connection until later on in life that we fished together in the same marinas in high school. And I was like, John, what do you have in the hole in the head category? There's not a lot in America that has the hole in the head category. So I went overseas, and I got a ton of overseas, like handmade Russian hole through the head jigs. And so we're doing a live broadcast of the podcast season 2, and I'm bringing them with me. So if you guys are in the Ohio, Michigan, whatever listening area, and is this going to drop before Saturday?
Not a chance.
Probably not. No, if you see me outside anywhere, I will show you them, because I have them on me at all times. I always have a palm rod in my car, and I can always show you guys what we use overseas, which is it's a really cool setup.
Could you send some photos along, and I'll put them up at fishnerds.com so people can see
check
what
it.
Looks like?
You need to check out fishnerds.com. That's where you need to go.
That's where you got to go.
of jigs and everything.
Or if you can go back in time a week and a half to September 30th, you can go to Bella's and hear a live show.
You would have seen it there. Yeah. It was a great show, by the way. That's what I've heard. It was an awesome show.
Amazing, I heard.
Really good show. Yeah.
Well, that'll be available for as a podcast. People can download that, and listen to it, and hear it.
I love podcasts, man. You know what? So there's no other consumable media that you can take with you. You have to stop and look at your phone for every other valuable media source. YouTube video. I need 30 seconds of your attention, Facebook posting, Instagram posts. I mean, there's no other media source that you can literally plug and then take with you wherever you go. Well, I'm hooked. I love podcasts, man.
It's so cool. And it's I think it's the last vestige of true free speech. The fact that you and I, completely amateurs, can pop a shanty up in our basement, push record, and make a show is remarkable, and we can get it to the world, right? And the fact that and a lot of people are like, oh, those juggernauts, iTunes, those jerks taking over the whole world. iTunes does not charge podcasters to use it. So they're because iTunes is the juggernaut and they're free for us, they're allowing us to reach, thousands of people. I don't know how many people you reach, probably 10, 12,000 a month, something like that.
I think about three. I've got 3 listeners. They're
perfect.
They're like diehards. So, I love them. I love them to death.
Well, you'll have 1 or 2 more after this. Probably.
Cool, man. Hey, we'll welcome all 5. They're in the family now. They're in the Fish Addictions radio family.
Now, the fun thing about podcasts is it's personal, right? When you're talking to someone, you're talking to them in their ear holes or in their brain, and every listener is super important to you, and it matters. And they can reach out to you, they can find you and talk to you, and I don't know, it even turns out even famous podcasts. I'm finding I can reach out to those people, and they're receptive because, like, wow, someone's listening to my podcast. I make it my house, and it's very, very, very real and very raw and super cool. What other podcasts do you listen to? Since this week we're recording just before September 30th, which is International Podcast Day. What other podcasts do you listen to?
So I listen to Table Talk Radio, which is like a seminary podcast. I listen to some credit union podcasts. And
Wait. Credit union podcasts?
Yeah, so like I'm in the credit union.
Holy gosh, man. I'm
just nerding out on math and science and all that jazz.
Beautiful thing.
But here's the funny one. I actually listened to a podcast about podcasting. And so it was all because somebody told me to download Audacity on my computer at one point in time, and I accidentally downloaded the Audacity to podcast. And literally for 3 I've been listening to the Audacity to podcast.
Daniel J. Lewis does that.
I still have not downloaded Audacity, but I've had 3 years of the Audacity to podcast. But honestly, to your point, in the fishing area, we've got the MI Ice guys. They do an ice fishing show up in Michigan. Pretty sporadic.
I've never seen it.
MI Ice guys, they get they do it at a brewery. How cool is that, right? They get like Chad Schaub and Anthony Rodriguez and a couple of the guys in Michigan together, and it comes out like 4 or 5 times throughout the ice fishing season. But they talk about NIFC stuff and that kind of stuff. And then the other thing in ice fishing, Broken Lines podcast just busted out like literally 5 weeks ago. I had them both on my podcast and had a little inspiration conversation with them. I was like, you guys got to just go for it, man. I'm like, the next week, boom, they dropped it. And that's the coolest thing. Yeah. Broken Lines podcast. And that's the coolest thing about the podcast, man. You have to have the audacity to just start it, just get out there and get some raw audio out there. I sat on audio files for a year before I actually published my first podcast.
Really?
You got to do it. Just got to rip off the Band-Aid and do it.
Yeah, I didn't know to do that. Now it's funny. You can go online and get these best practices. Make sure you make an episode 0 and a trailer episode and all these things. And my original co-host and I, Dave, we just started we started off writing a book, and we failed at getting a publisher to buy our book. And one of the things they kept saying was that we're not reaching enough people outside of New Hampshire with our writing. We were writing for like a bunch of magazines and newspapers, and we were featured all over the state, but we weren't reaching outside. And so we ditched the book and launched the podcast, and we didn't read any of the rules, which is important because there's no rules in podcasting. You just do what you want to do. So it's a lot of fun. It's an experiment that's always always happening. I listen to very few fishing podcasts, to be honest. I've tried a lot of them, and most I just can't get past all the hook and line talk. So your show I like because high energy and you tell stories, and I like that. And
I forgot one. Can I mention just one more? I'm
you've maxed out. You've maxed out.
Fish Nerds podcast. Yeah, no, it's amazing. It's the coolest podcast ever.
We know that.
Make yourself feel privileged if you're listening to it. If you can get on it in a shanty in your basement, I mean, I might just retire. This might be the last episode of a podcast you ever hear me on because I've hit the mountaintop, man. This is my mountaintop moment.
Well, you're missing out because last week on the show, and you wouldn't have heard that yet because it hasn't dropped yet, but the last week pretend show, we had on a band called the Koi Division, which is a Joy Division cover band that dresses like fish on stage. And they have a side project called Bitchin' Seahorse. So, I mean, you could do anything. All this, the Fish Nerds allows us to be broad in our fish coverage. So
I love it. I love it, man. Yeah. You're the best. And you guys have like these fish stories and stuff like that from the news. That's like so creative, man. I listened to your episode 8 with Dave, and you guys were doing it all the way back then too. So that's a pretty cool segment that you guys have always had on the show.
Yeah, and I missed Dave. He was my original co-host, and he left because we couldn't figure out how to make any money. So so he had to quit. That's the fun thing about podcasts is we all want to make money, but none of us know how to do that part. So if anyone wants to advertise on Fish Addictions Radio or Fish Nerds, give us a call. We can do some co-hosting together for you if you want even. So we're open. All right. Hey, how about we do some fish in the news?
Oh, dude, I'm jacked, man. I'm so ready for the fish in the news. I've been waiting for this moment for the rest of my life.
For your whole life, yeah. All right.
Right.
So the way fish news works is I read the headlines and we just talk about them and make fun of them and stop whenever we get bored. That's the mantra. The first one is from WMUR News 9, New Hampshire, my local news station.
What?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I know, right? There's fish news everywhere. This headline is, the codfather to be sentenced for evading fish quotas. Codfather. Out of Boston, U.S. fishing magnate known as the Codfather, who pleaded guilty for evading fish quotas and smuggling money to Portugal, is set to be sentenced. Carlos Rafael is the owner of one of the nation's largest commercial fishing operations. It includes a fleet of more than 30 vessels, 44 commercial fishing permits, and the Carlos Seafood business in New Bedford. His sentencing is scheduled to begin in Boston federal court on Monday and could extend into Tuesday. This is very exciting.
Do you guys have cod? Do you guys have cod over there? Is that like a New Hampshire? Do you guys have that there? Or is that you have to go to Boston? You have to go to Boston to get the cod?
You got to go wicked cod in Boston. So if you go off the coast of New Hampshire, Maine, or Massachusetts, you are in the Gulf of Maine. And currently there's a moratorium on cod fishing. They have been fished almost to extinction.
Ooh.
So I went fishing with my friend Captain Sean Tibbetts from MaineTunaFishing.com this summer, who works on the show. And we couldn't stop catching cod. We caught so many cod.
Oh, wow.
Which is exciting. So, not big fish historically. They're all probably 30 inches or so. And for cod, those are historically small fish. But we caught lots and lots and lots. Had to let them all go because they're endangered.
And so I pretend to be a fish nerd, but when it comes to fish like cod, I actually don't know much. So is cod like a common, like if I got a fish fillet sandwich, is that cod? So
your fish fillet sandwich from McDonald's is a pollock from Alaska, and pollock are in the cod family, right? So, but we're talking cod here. We're talking Atlantic cod, same family of fish, but much, much bigger than a pollock. And much more commercially valuable.
How much money is it for the Codfather, right? I mean, this guy's like straight like stealing stuff and like doing. You could make a movie about this guy. It'd be like Scarface, right?
Yeah, only stinkier.
Scarfish.
Yeah. Starfish.
That's right.
Yeah. No, so and now you fish in, where are you fishing? Ohio?
Ohio, yeah.
Yeah, and do you have burbot or cusk out your way?
I have not yet caught a burbot. No, those are more in Minnesota and Wisconsin.
All right.
I want to, and I will.
We have them in New Hampshire, and they are the only freshwater codfish in the Northern Hemisphere.
Oh, dude, so they taste amazing. That's what I've heard. I've not had one, but I've heard they taste like a lobster.
Well, when I went on a quest a few years ago to catch and eat every kind of freshwater fish in New Hampshire, and we made the poor man's lobster, and you boil the cod in water with some red wine vinegar. Then you dip that in drawn butter, and if you were blind, you would not know the difference.
That's awesome.
Super delicious fish. Yeah.
So this guy's doing some bad stuff, though. He's stealing cod. He should just let him go, like you guys did when you went fishing in the ocean.
Well, and so here's the conundrum, right? So you're fishing down 135 or 40 feet in the ocean, right? And you catch this 20-pound cod, and you crank it up. It takes you 10 minutes to reel to the top of the boat to the boat. You take it out of the water. You take the hook out. You throw it back in the water. Is the fish going to survive that release?
I don't know, man. I'm guessing no.
I'm thinking, yeah.
I'll have to be a fish nerd for that one.
I'm thinking no as well. And one of the big tells is the fact that its air bladder comes out of its mouth and it floats belly up and it dies and seagulls eat it. So it's not a great method. Catching, releasing big cod isn't really great. I kind of think that cod quotas should be moratorium on the big commercial guys, but I think on small fishing boats, I don't think it makes any real sense.
He's got 188 boats. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Am I hearing that right? 188 boats, man. Does he need all of those boats? I think, Well,
no. He's got 30 vessels and 44 boats, right?
Yeah.
Which means he owns a huge fleet and he makes millions upon millions of dollars. Now he'll
77, 188. I'm just a bank manager over here. No big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Now what he was doing was he was catching fish, and he was claiming they were catching haddock and pollock. And they did a lot of filleting at sea. And then the only way to find out what kind of meat you have is with DNA testing. And a lot of the fish he sold for cash, the dock, or he smuggled them overseas. But he's only going to get 24 months. He's only going to get 24 months probation on this whole thing.
That's because he's the codfather, though. There's something going on there. That's mob stuff right there.
That's right. When you got the money and the connections, do you know who I am? Are you laughing at me? Yeah. Do I amuse you?
Somebody showed up with a boat in the backyard. That's all I'm saying, man. You got a boat in your backyard. The codfather visited you.
Codfather. It's wicked good. All right. This is from thesun.co.uk. Fishing for gold. Huge demand for cuttlefish is making a fortune for British fishermen. Cuttlefish is a delicacy in China. Do you know what a cuttlefish is?
It's not a fish.
It is not a fish.
It's a mollusk.
It is a mollusk or cephalopod.
I don't even know what a mollusk is. I tried to be a fish nerd for like a microsecond there.
Oh, believe me, if you're making a fishing podcast, by definition, you are a fish nerd.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, in my research, I did this thorough research. I found that it's actually very similar to like squid and octopus, which I love to eat. Yeah. And it eats octopus. So I not only love to eat octopus, and it's like an octopus, I don't know why I have not had cuttlefish yet. Where do I get some?
Well, I don't know, but prices right now are at an all-time high at £5 a kilo for the mollusk in the Brixham fishing market, where a record 700,000 pounds worth of cuttles were sold last week.
Now's not the time to buy cuttlefish. We'll have to wait for the market to drop there.
Yeah. That's right. Now, 90% of the catch was destined for overseas, as the food is unpopular in Britain. Those Britons. Skippers from around the country have flocked to the English Channel area to exploit a lack of quotas for how much can be caught. 6 of the boats currently working almost around the clock to catch them have landed a total of 100 tons.
Hey, you were talking.
Go ahead.
You were talking about what is a fish when you were at the podcasters thingamabob.
Yes.
They were talking about like the boniness of the cuttlefish and how you really shouldn't cuddle with it. Yeah. What do bones and fish have to do with being a fish?
What do bones have nothing to do with being a fish? Bones are not.
Okay, I didn't know if there was
bones are not a requirement
bone
to be a
structure.
fish. Nope. Well, if you're a bone,
nobody actually answered that question. So I don't.
So let me ask you
3 things that makes a fish is.
Well, you tell me. Tell me 3 things that all fish have in common. Traits, biological traits, not where they live or what they eat. Biological. You tell me. Go ahead. Try. Try hard.
You're making it hard for me. I would say has to breathe via the water, right? They get their oxygen from the water.
Well, so are you saying
there's not a lot of fish that don't do that?
Are you saying they all have gills? So like structurally,
not necessarily gills.
Okay, so structurally,
underneath the water they can breathe.
Yeah. So
structurally,
everything alive breathes, right? So like, but structurally, like, but let's look at like, if I say you're a mammal, you've got hair, teeth, you drank mama's milk, you got all the mammal traits. You know what that means. None of them have to do with you breathe. They have to do with you.
Yes.
So what are 3 things all fish have in common? This is a fun game.
Swim bladder.
No.
Swim bladder. Humans don't have them.
No, neither do a lot of fish. So that doesn't work.
Dang it!
So your sculpin.
I'm doing really good.
Sculpin don't have them.
Dorsal fin. What?
Yeah, lots of fish have dorsal fins, but not all the fish have dorsals.
A great mind.
They're all geniuses. That's true. That's the one. So one of the things
and they're really good looking. That's all I got.
They're all cute, right? That's why I would agree. They're cute.
They're really cute.
They are super cute. One of the fun thing about fish is they're like the nothing quite matches category of animal. So there's not a lot that all fish have in common. It's really hard to define. That's why they separate them into bony fishes or cartilaginous fishes and other kinds of fish, because you can't say all fish have these things in common because they don't. And that's the fun thing about fish is it's that wide open category of animal, and that's what makes them nerdy.
All fillet pretty much the same. If you're filleting fish, there's a lot there. No.
It could be, yeah. But luckily,
the pike's got a lot. I've heard.
Yeah, but luckily, cuttlefish are not a fish, right? So they are, like, as you said.
Good.
You said mollusk. I would say cephalopod, but that's us. So anyway, these guys they're catching them like crazy, and currently there's no limit. It looks like on how many cuttlefish they can catch.
They shouldn't be so expensive, then, man. If there's no limit soldiers out there, let the man eat. Get some cuttlefish up in this mug.
Well, what's happening is as we're learning to in the West to diversify our diet, we're learning that you can eat more things, and that's why cuttlefish are getting popular right now. They grow fast, they taste like squid, and they're easy to catch. So they're going to catch on a little bit, but the concern is when does it become a problem for fishing and overfishing? So
yes,
but right now it's trendy and cool in the Britons.
And now in Ohio, I love squid as well. And in Ukraine, they've got this dried squid that you drink with, or you don't drink it, you eat it with beer.
Yes.
It smells absolutely horrendous. But when you eat it and you drink beer with it, it actually tastes amazing. And I'm now hooked on this dried squid stuff. It's amazing.
I haven't tried it. I'd love to get overseas and try some fish someplace different. But hey, so here's one more cephalopod story for us. This is from engadget.com, the place we all go for our fish news. Squid ink could make your dentist visit much less painful. You've been there?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
All right. So squid ink can make your dentist visits much less painful. The melanin nanoparticles in squid ink can help create a full map of your mouth. Your dentist visits can become a pleasant, pain-free experience, and it's thanks to squids. A team of engineers from the University of California, San Diego developed an imaging method using squid ink and ultrasounds to check for gum disease. If you've ever had to get your mouth checked for gum diseases, you know what I'm talking about. The current method to assess gum health involves inserting periodontal probes, metal hook between your gums and your teeth. And so what they're doing now is taking squid ink and squirting it in your mouth, and then using ultrasound, they can see all the nooks and crannies of your mouth. So really easier and still gross.
See, at first, I was like, squid ink, that's got to taste bad.
I'm sure it does.
Hooks in the teeth. it actually reminds me of fishing a little bit. I'm like, so that's okay. That's what I'm doing to fish. Yeah, the hooks in the teeth and the gums. That's exactly what we do every time we hook a fish, and I don't want that. So yeah, give me the ink. I'll take the ink.
Now, have you ever eaten squid ink?
No. There's no way that stuff tastes good. I mean, it's there to defense against whatever's trying to attack it. So there's probably some bad taste in that. Mm-hmm. I would imagine it tastes something along the lines of soap. Yeah, it would probably taste like soap.
Probably. I've had it. Now, if you go to your local international market, usually if you can find like an Asian market or something, you could find canned squid packed in squid ink.
How late are they open?
You can go right now. I have no idea.
I'm going to go check it out. I would love to try some squid ink and check out my gums because oral health is important, man.
Yeah. If you want to have some fun, search it up. I'll share a link out. But we did a tinned fish special last January where we went to one of these markets and stocked up on canned fish, including tinned squids packed in ink. And it was like eating a nightmare. It was just terrible. It was just terrible. But I highly recommend everyone try it.
Yeah, that's a good recommendation. We're gonna do that today. And do you think it would catch more fish? I don't think there's nothing good about squid ink. I don't think.
I can't imagine, but it's interesting and it's fun that people are trying to do cool things with it.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Like, hey, like who thought of that, right? Like, oh man, this whole gum looking at things, this is terrible. Hey, have you tried squid ink? You know, who thought that one up?
Hey, I got an idea. Throw some ink on it.
That's right.
So Scott, if somebody wants to be part of your show or get involved with your show, what's the best way to do that?
Fishnerds.com, because that's where the link's going to be.
What? But you have your own source.
Yeah, fishaddictionsradio.com. And we're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. And we have a YouTube page. It's kind of funny because I did video before I did radio. So, video killed the radio star. Now, even though it was inverse relationship for me, it actually is true. Way better on radio. Got a face for it. So, check that out if you want to.
Sure.
But really, just the new iOS 11 is so super slick. You can say,
I hate it.
Hey Siri, subscribe to Fish Addictions Radio, and literally it will do that for you. Hey Siri, subscribe to Fish Nerds Radio. Like my phone's literally doing it right now.
I'm going to try it. Hey Siri, subscribe to Fish Addictions Radio.
Would you like to subscribe to the podcast Fish Addictions Radio, an ice fishing podcast by Scott Albrecht?
No!
What'd you do?
Fish Addictions Radio, an ice fishing podcast.
That's awesome.
How is that? I mean, that's like so many people are like, oh, how do I get to your podcast? That is just a mind blower to have that on there. So
yeah, that's really cool. I hated it until just now.
Okay, great.
So
that's how you find us. But go to fishnerds.com no matter what, because he's going to have a bunch of links in the show notes and pictures of my palm rods and my jigs and my line and all that jazz from Ukraine, from Latvia. Yeah. And the team's going to Kazakhstan this winter.
Do you need any more teammates? Because I would like to join your team.
You should join the team and be a media guy. They have those there. You just walk around with the press pass and interview people. It's thebomb.com, brother.
Set me up. I want to do this.
Yes, you should be.
All right, help me with that. That'd be remarkable.
Oh yeah, fish nerds overseas.
Oh what? Yeah, I have to learn another language.
Oh yeah,
that's totally fun. All right, cool. So let's wrap this up. Unless you've got anything else you need to add today.
That's it.
So that's it. You've listened to a couple of fish nerds when you should have been fishing.
We'd love to thank our families for supporting while we podcast, go on fishing quests, and do silly things that ice fishing nerds do.
Special thanks to Fish Guy Josh, Scott Albrecht from Fish Addictions Radio, and of course Diana's Bath Salts for mixing the show and our theme stuff.
Until next time, follow the code of the Fish Nerds, spawn early and often,
avoid free lunches with strings attached,
and swim against the current every chance you get.
All right, Scott, you made a Fish Nerds podcast today. Congratulations.
What? feel like I'm $1 million, man. I'm going to go out and buy some ink and drink it.
Delicious. That sounds great.